So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream, live peoples, recorded for Ustream.tv and also YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm colouring in the Colin Thompson colouring in book, and I'm in a slightly bigger page, bigger spaces. I've been working in the bookcases, and they're quite small spaces for watercolouring, but these are slightly bigger spaces. So this way of working with a small brush with watercolour wouldn't particularly work well. So I had the idea that I'd forgotten these Derwent watercolour pencils. You can actually use them as an ordinary pencil first. You can actually leave them like this if you want, or you can use them in a different way. So I've been round all the page, and I've scribbled the colours that I want. Just a very rough pencil colour sketched, scratch. So all these are just coloured with a pencil, but they're coloured with a Derwent watercolour pencil. And in theory, because I'd forgotten about this, in theory what you can do, if we take the little cherry there, is you can just touch this and reactivate the pencil. So instead of using my little book of watercolours, you can do it this way. And again, you've got a lot more control. You sort your colour out first and then you add your water. So when you use them from here, you've got more control. And I quite like that way of working. So again, a clean brush, and I'm just going to tease that colour. And probably might change to a slightly smaller brush, although they're not so bad. So what I'm going to do now is, there are all these little windows I've got with a gold one. Hi Dorothy, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else that's joining me? I'm working with some dry watercolour pencils, and then I'm going in with a damp brush and activating them all to make that back into a watercolour. And you will end up with yellow paint on your paintbrush, because it's very similar to using my little book of watercolours. As soon as you touch this square, you're activating it. So I'm going to go around all the yellow windows, and I've used number 3, I think the gold one. And by just touching, you can, again, because I just scribbled it, I can then make sure that all this colour is going where I want it to go. And they all should basically light up, because the minute you touch them, they're brighter. Because although these are just the Derwent watercolour pencils, they are amazing. And this is a rigger, so I can keep just stroking this colour in. And because the pencil didn't go right to the edge, I can just neaten this up a little bit. And because the colour's here, I can push it about, basically. And yet dry as a bone. Hardly any water. So I'm using my couple of tablespoons of water on a baby white, twisting the brush to a point. So this is now a damp brush. It's not wet, it's damp. And then just gently activating that pencil. So instead of having lines where I've scribbled with pencil, I'm getting beautifully flat colour. But that's how I want to use it for this particular bit. I'm just using all these little windows as a little flat, bright colour. And there's a tiny one up there, a very tiny one. So the advantage of this is you can scribble any amount of pencils on top of each other. that you want, and you won't get mud. You can scribble yellow and then put blue, and you make your own greens. You can make your browns, you can put oranges and blues together, oranges and yellows together. You can do any colour combination you want. In fact, that might be possibly a nice new series for the new year, of actually making colours up. I've done it before, but not to this extent, because I had actually forgotten. I had forgotten. Now, I'm not quite sure why I've put that colour there, but if I'm not happy with it, I can take it away later. And I don't really need to wash the brush out, because I'm actually getting yellow paint on the end of the brush. But I'm trying to work across so I don't leave any out. So that really pencil scribble has turned out to be a lovely flat area of colour. And it's like magic. It's just activating those colours. So if I move across, I'm just going to move that up because I need to get across to this section here. And again, the beauty of it is this is dry, so I can put my hand on it and sleeve straight away, and it's not going to... Can you actually see these little lights as if they're actually just being turned on? So it doesn't matter how much I've scribbled, it's now going to a lovely flat colour. And I could have put some different yellow on top of that, some orange in a corner, and made it different. There's another one in the corner here. And then there's one right at the bottom down here. Now that's scribbled and it's actually gone into water. This is water at the bottom, so I'm going to leave that bit. I've just done the doorway, so that's activated, and it's back there. Now the thing with these Derwent watercolours, these have been activated to water and they've dried. But if I wet them again, they will become watercolour again. So that's a difference with this one. So I think I've just done that one, have I? And then I've got this one to do here. So you could be scribbling in the car, or on a train, or a plane with your pencils, and then you can just go over it with a brush. And of course all I've done is scribble with a pencil and then scribbled with a damp brush. So there's again not a lot of pressure on your hands, which is really easy for me. And there's no blending because you're blending with the paintbrush. It does work better with a rigger, with a long it works better. But I have actually used it with I used to do this particular way with a water brush, but not in a colour book. A colour book will not stand a water brush. I think there's only one, and it's because I think it was broken, that it doesn't release its water very well. So if you have a very dry water brush, it will work, but that obviously is a contradiction in terms. But I have a very old one that does not, it's quite dry. So actually it's perfect. So now all these little yellow spots are activated. They are now just pure watercolour. So we shall do the pencil sharpener next. So this is the palest. So you can see it's a little bit like when the children used to paint by magic. I would think it's very similar as how they used to use it, but isn't that really simple? And just stroke that way. And the beauty of it is, it depends where you push the colour. You've got control over this now, like it's water. Sorry, trouble's coming in. And again, just activating the colour. You can manipulate it where you want, because now it is watercolour. You can pop a little bit in there if you want, or maybe get some grey for later. And what I want to do is I want to create a nice effect on this section here. And that pencil sharpener has come to life. And you do that really simply everywhere that you've put colour. Now, I've actually forgotten about the chimney breast there. I've forgotten that bit. But I've done all the, I did the roofs. All the roofs, didn't I? Yes. I will do a little man here, look. He's sitting there and he's got a very vibrant French ultramarine jacket. But if I manipulate the colour, you can have a highlight or a low light because it looks like it's water. So we'll pick something else. I purposely, I don't think I did cream on this one. Let's have a look. No, there's absolutely nothing on that white at all. But if I go into this leaf here, I can pull the tiniest amount out here, just to give a very subtle highlight. Sorry, I thought that was the cat. It isn't. And again, it's probably with a smaller brush maybe, but we'll have a go. Again, you're just touching this, and because I've got 3 different colours here, those colours are blending. I bring that stem down, and it's very quick because all the work's done. I can take this stem up, so where it was blue, then yellow, and then blue, I've made that green up by blue and yellow, by stroking yellow and then greens, so you get some really lovely proper watercolour effects. I'm just going to turn this round, sorry about that, because I just want to get a nice action, natural wrist, because I want to smooth that there and bring this down, because that's got a little bit of a highlight on it. And then you dampen the brush again if you've got a bigger space and tease this colour down. And that's given a really beautiful leaf. There's hardly any struggling at all with lots of water. I mean, it's dried already. Hi Timothy, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else that's joining us? I've been scribbling with these Derwent watercolour pencils, and when I say scribbling, I mean adding colour to a colour page, but you know, just basically putting pencil down. Now on this one I've done yellow, and then I put some green, some blue down the centre. So again, you want a fairly damp brush, but you're just reactivating it, and at the same time you can push it about to create some natural highlights. So you get some really nice effects, and again, it's dry, you're not going to smudge it. And normally to get that, you'd have to push about quite a lot of colour. Now again, under here, I've put some darks. And I'm just kind of stroking gently. Because I don't really want to push this colour around too much, because I want this kind of... I'd already done the yellows and the deeper blues, and when you activate them, you want them just to sit. But you get some really, really quick results doing this way. So this little house, I might as well work that way around. This little house here has some gunmetal. I'm going to leave the rocks because I'm going to do this with a bigger brush. So if I push this across, I hope I hope it's not. Can everybody see that? Okay. So again, now I may change this because this I did a different colour and then I changed my mind. So I'll just have to have a look what happens. So you may have to clean your brush after every one. It's because you are actually gathering the actual colour this time, rather than putting it onto a page. You're actually taking it off. So you're picking up colour. But just have to make sure you're not too wet. And again, I've just stroked a little bit of dark under there. So you get some really gorgeous effects, and it's ready done. And I'd forgotten all about these pencils and how they react. So you could either leave it as a pencil drawing, or you can activate it with water and it becomes a watercolour. And I'd completely forgotten about these, but I was sorting out the pencils and thinking about, am I going to give them to my daughters, and what am I going to do with all my art stuff, and am I going to actually have to give up drawing and painting. So I may have found something else that I can do. So because you've got colour on there already, if you go in the darker areas, that's fine. But what I would do is, you need a clean brush to take the very, very palest and tease it back in. And then you keep your highlights and your shadows. Oh, I think that's the gritters. Oh, that's the first time I've seen them this year. Oh my goodness. I seem to have misplaced my husband and my car. Oh well. Now there's a little bit of pink there from somewhere. I don't know where that's from. Yeah, I don't remember how. Oh, of course he's gone to the thingy, hasn't he? Yeah. He did say he was going out. I think I'm pretty sure that's a rock there. But again, sometimes you've got to be careful. So I'll do this one next. There, the Derwent watercolours. And I've just scribbled them all over the page and completely filled it in with colours. And then just with pencil. And then I've... my goodness me, I've just realised what they were doing, sorry. to apologise. They've gritted the lay-by. I don't think, we've been here 25 years, I've never seen them. They've never gritted the lay-by, ever. That's very interesting. Right, so again, I've got two different pencils here. I've got a pale one, and then I've put a different one in the shadows. But this is a grayscale, so it's made it a little bit easier. I have no idea what this guy's doing outside at all. Luckily, the dogs are in the other room. So I've gone under there because that's the highlight. I'm going to leave that because I've got green on here. So if I touch that lovely light highlight would disappear. So I'm going to go behind there and tease out that darker leaf. And then you can either wash your brush out or just continue. Now this is only a damp brush. You don't want it very wet, but it's lasted quite well. So again, I'm going to keep on teasing this colour. And I did put a little bit of a darker colour in there. So this was an experiment because I'd forgotten how to do this. But these pencils can be used for as an ordinary pencil and a watercolour. But you can also make washes with them. And as I say, I'd completely forgotten. So I'm probably going to do... I might start a new series of how many things you can do with these beautiful pencils. Now, because that was a dark one, I'm actually going to go in here because I want that to be dark. But you can scribble 3 or 4 different pencils together, and when you activate them, oh, is Santa bringing you them? Fantastic. These are all starting to crack because I must have had them about 20 odd years. So I've decided I needed to use them. I found a little yellow window behind there. I think I've forgotten to do the chimney. So what colour have I got here? I've got a bronze. And I can't remember what bronze is, so bear with me 2 seconds. I found my little piece of paper. My practice paper. And I'm just going to scribble a little bit of bronze, and then I'm going to activate it. It's probably not grey enough, but it might be nice for a change. I'm actually just going to do that just a little bit, and I've got one over here that I forgot as well. Any more chimney pots? I think I got them all right. I've actually been and scribbled all. Oh, scribbled. I've penciled, shall we say, coloured in pencil. So I've done that, and you can tell what you've done and what you haven't done because there's suddenly bright lights. So if I do this book, you'll see what happens. So I'm just going to turn it sideways. Oopsie. I think my camera's moved. If you just bear with me 2 seconds, I'm just going to do this very carefully. That's slightly better. Right. So I can now turn that. Oopsie. So we can see that. Sorry about that. Right, I'm going to have the biggest brush I've got, but I am drying it, so it's the biggest rigger, which is a 6, but it's damp, it's not wet. I'm going to start I should have really started at the top. Start at the top and stroke down, and it activates the colour. And I think I went over this with about 3 different colours. I'm just going to go over that rock, although I can grey it up a bit later. So if you had a pattern or something that you wanted. So that's activated that. And I could carry on because this is all pale grey. So each different little stone I've coloured. Oops, sorry, the camera will move now. Oh, disaster. If you ever move one thing, everything else just moves. Sit. Mind you, if you realise that if things do shut, because it's dry, it's not done any damage, so that's quite nice. So I'm going to go to the smaller brush. And just activate those colours. And I had put a couple of different greys. Now I haven't done this, but I can go over it. When I've activated all those, I'm going to have a bit of colour on here, so I'm just going to go over that, and it's just given it a little bit of colour. But it's dried. I love the fact that it's watercolour, but it's dry. So I did this one, and again there's a difference between that one and that one. This has been activated with water and this hasn't. So we'll activate this with water, and that's all the really dark in there. And then I'm going to clean the brush because I did put a yellow in here for a highlight. So do your yellows first, and that completely brings it to life. I could do the roof. Now I use gunmetal grey on this one, which is a bluey gunmetal. And then you can tease. I'm going to put a bit of shadow under there with that gunmetal, but it's a different grey. I think it's French grey. I think I did all the tunnels French grey. So again, I'm teasing all this colour out here. And I've got gunmetal, French gunmetal, French grey. I think this one is. And it's just now turned into a watercolour, that bit. So they're very easy to use this way. And of course brilliant for children because they've got a tablespoon of water and an almost dry brush. This brush actually is a little bit too wet. I don't know why it is. And again, you can push, once you've activated it, you can push that colour around. So it's actually still, again, quite easy, quite an easy one to use. I should do the tree next. So again, haven't got a lot of highlights on this one. It would probably be easier to show you on a different kind of colour page, because I'll show you when I activate what happens with the ink tens. Because this is a grayscale, so it's all probably already been done for you. So I've just missed a little bit here. So if I go, which way shall we go? We could do this one next. Do this one next here. So I've already activated the yellow, And again, I thought this French grey was quite warm, so I should have a fair amount of colour on here, so I'm just going to stroke those stone steps, and that's just given that a little bit of colour. But again, these are fab for kids because, you know, they can use the paintbrush, they can use the pencils for colouring in, and then they just want a tablespoon of water and a damp brush. And again, you can see that there is quite a lot of colour on here, but when I come down here now, if I take that down there, this is a different colour. This is a bit of gunmetal, so it's going to give it some quite nice darks now there. And again, I love the fact it's a different way of working, but it's still okay. You know, I mean, if it got the worst things came, my daughter could scribble the colour over, and then I could just use the brush. So we've got to here. So we'll activate this one. It's a little bit bright, is this, but you can kind of darken it down. Could have done with a little bit of a bigger paintbrush, but I quite like that effect. And you can't have it too wet because I don't want any bobbling, crinkling of the pages. I like my little flat book. And I've just got that tiny bit there on this leaf, and I want to keep that highlight. So I kept that highlight on that one. So I can do this one now, but it's, oh no, I'll do it this way. Just teasing all that colour out of there. I didn't put any colour in that particularly, so I haven't got any there, but you can keep some quite nice effects if you want. You can do all sorts with once you've activated it into a watercolour. But the colour is completely different than what it is when it's a pencil. And it's a little bit different because this is a grayscale, but it still shows you what you can do. And then if we come back round here, we can get past that little chimney. And the beauty of the riggers is there's still always a fair amount of colour of water in your brush, so you can kind of go on for a lot longer. So I've got some quite nice highlights on there. It's a little bit darker brown than that. That looks a little bit orangey, but it is actually a dark brown. So we can do this tree next here, and again start the lightest, clean brush, just teasing all that colour around, and then as you would with a watercolour, take the green shadow lower down, and we could possibly just put that into there just to make sure it's got some kind of, you've kept that really nice highlight on the top. So that was a little bit of a yellow. There was a bit of a very, very pale green and a dark green underneath. The same with this. This was a very pale green on top. I think it was grass green I used. No, it wasn't. It was May green. And I think it was juniper that I used for underneath. And then just tease that colour through. Oops, sorry, I just knocked the camera. So I can just tease all that grass back into being grass. It is actually called grass. It is a grass colour. My colour's a bit out. Hi Suzanne, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Again, just stroking that grey. And I've got 3 greys. I've got a dark one, I've got the French one which is quite warm, and then I've got a gunmetal which has given me some quite nice smoky effects. So these Derwent watercolour pencils are very versatile. And as with the grayscale, you can manipulate a little bit of the colour around if you want to. You end up turning all that pencil into pure watercolour. So we have another tree up here, and it's a bit of a darker tree. So again, on the top, and there is some green on here. So if I wanted to go down here and just kind of put a little bit of darkness under here, I'm not wasting that paint. And actually that is the green, the grey. I used the gunmetal down here to give a bit of, it's going to be a little bit grey and dark under here. So the tops are gunmetal. Sorry, the tops are, I think that's called silver grey, because that was the lightest one that I had. But you're always in full control, so it's always quite nice. You can manipulate that colour around once you've activated it. And then, still only a damp brush though, you don't need a lot of water. And then we come to this, manipulating this particular one. And again, you can go back in, and as soon as you make it into a watercolour, you can push it about where you want it. So your scribbles disappear, which is quite nice. And you can manipulate those back into a natural shadow. And again, this is another easy way to work. Everything's got to be a bit easy for me. I like everything a little bit easier. But that's all finished now, so that looks quite a nice little area, that. I've just got the chimney to activate, but I think I might have to have a smaller brush for that, because that's a pretty small space. Just make sure that this brush is going to behave itself and go back into a point. So we want the little chimney breast there. So we can do this one next here, and you're just working your way around. And push the colour around as you see fit. A little highlight in there, and then of course you need some shadow in there. And it's as easy and as quick as that. I could maybe put a little bit of gunmetal in there, I think, possibly. But some of these would be quite nice and warm rather than... Now this is another big space. I'm going to do the gunmetal roof. I thought they'd look a bit slate coloured. And there's the oops, this brush is a little bit just a little bit damp now. And I think I'm possibly going to, I haven't done anything on that one. I think I'm going to do that one, but I'm going to obviously do it with a bigger brush. So I'm going to start at the bottom. It's too wet, is that? You really don't want a lot of water. Because you'll end up with a crinkle. And we've kind of gone all out not to have a crinkle. So in the darker spaces, I've got a darker colour. So I need to activate the darker colour first. But I say this is the beauty of these pencils. You can put 3 or 4 different greens together if you want, and you don't get mud, which is most unusual. Most unusual. It's just that little bit up there, and then I can go back now and tease all this colour back. I'm going to use a middle-sized brush actually, I think. I really don't want it at all wet. And just manipulate that paler colour now into the other one. And you'll keep all your highlights that you had. And this will happen if it was a grayscale or if it was just a drawing, whatever you're doing. So it's given it a really nice effect, and it's just a little bit damp. So, did I do under here? Let me have a look. No, I don't think I did any colour under there, so I'll just dry that one off a bit. So if I pull this down here, I found another window. So you just scribble a drop of yellow and then damp brush, activate that into yellow paint, and it's as easy as that. But of course these Derwent pencils have got some wonderful pigments in them, so you know, it depends on your quality of your pencil. But just keep teasing all this colour that I've used lots of different browns and greens and greys. Again, I didn't fancy any very, very vibrant colours, so these are all kind of very, very soft. But I'll show you with the Inktense in a minute what happens in the next video, what happens when you use vibrant colours. Oh, sorry, Dorothy. I think there's a blip in the system yesterday as well. I don't know whether it's an ongoing thing. Everything looks the same at my end, so I am recording, so hopefully I can upload it a bit later. I think Jean was saying something about if you're in Firefox, come out of that and go in Chrome, or if you're in, try a different web browser, see if that helps. So that's a bit darker in there. So I've got this one to do next. And as soon as you activate it, the colour is so good. Yeah, I think it is Ustream, isn't it? I think. As I say, I think a lot of people had trouble yesterday. So I've got some, that looks like some green, and I haven't put that in. So I'm just going to put, let's see if we can find the gunmetal again. Which colour was gunmetal? This is the French grey. So I'll just put a little bit of French grey in here to warm these up a little bit. And then I'm onto gunmetal for there, and a bit of greenery there. I mean, you could do it bit by bit if you want, but I was just thinking it was easier to do it that way. I'm just looking for silver grey. There's a nice silver grey, but I've lost, oops, sorry, I've lost gunmetal grey. Oh, no I haven't, there it is. And just gently stir that into there. I think I like that one. That's not gunmetal grey either, is it? I think I've already watercoloured that, so that'll make it a bit darker. And then I think these roofs over here want a little bit of gunmetal on them. Before you activate it, you can scribble lots of different colours if you want. But once it's activated, it's a bit trickier to do. So again, that lovely, nice, warm French grey, and then that silver grey. This one, that's quite nice. It's a little bit cooler, but there's an awful lot of grey in this, so I didn't want it to be all too cold. And again, you can manipulate this colour around. And I ended up putting some gunmetal down there. And there seems to be a bit of greenery up there. There might just be enough to touch in there. Give that a little bit of a green. And there's all this green here. So it is a little bit like when you were a child and you had that magic painting. You just got a paintbrush and all the colours appeared. It works in the same way, I think. You can manipulate that colour as much as you want. And again, that gunmetal slate green, I can go to this one straight away and do this one. And just stroke some of this colour down. So you can have a highlight somewhere if you want. And that's just given that a little bit of a colour. So I've got this tower to do next. Again, just stroking this colour down. I seem to have got a little bit of red in there, but never mind, it's fine. It'll be fine. It'll warm it up a bit. I've done all that there. Again, you do want a fairly, not too wet brush really, because your pages will crinkle. Again, you can tease all this colour down, and then when it's a watercolour you can manipulate it to do what you want. I think I've got 3 different greys on this one, I think. And it behaves itself quite well once it's wet. And then you can tease into this gunmetal down here for a bit of a nice shadow. So thanks for stopping in, everybody. I hope you're all well. It's a bit of a wintry day in the UK. It's not the warmest it's been, although I think it's going to be warmer than it has been. I actually managed to catch a little bit of news yesterday. There's an aeroplane there, sorry. There's an aeroplane. It's a biplane, I think. And again, you can see the bit I'm activating. And I'm going to do the water last, I think. I'm sure that's a biplane. So, I'll come back down here. Activate that colour. We've done the book. We've got this book to do next. And again, as soon as you've activated that colour, it becomes so vibrant. And these are only the Derwent watercolours, they're not Inktense. But they still have a fair amount of pigment in them. And this is just a light scribble with pencil, it wasn't a rough kind of digging in. And that's why these pencils work well in the little book of colours, because there's a lot of pigment in this. It's a pair of steps there. I'll just give them a little light coating of something. So I think we've done that. I think if you've done that, we've got this particular one here to do now. And this should be a nice olive green. And I like the fact that you don't have big water pots everywhere, because I spill everything. So have we got any? Is it a rainy day? I don't think it's raining, I just think it's cold and frost. It's cold and freezing fog, which is always not very nice, is it? I'd like to just put these pencils, put the lid back on now, kind of function a bit better. And I do love this tray, but it's so difficult to manoeuvre about a bit. So put that back up there. Yeah, Timothy says it's a good day for a cup of tea, a good stream or a book, and a stay in bed. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not going out weather. Although at Filey there's a cafe, and you can walk across the top, and then they serve hot soup and rolls, and it's quite nice. But I probably don't like going out now, because you don't realise when you're actually not physically walking how cold you get. And again, I'm just manipulating this dark colour, which I'm going to probably tease over to this colour, I think, which is a different one. I did that one, so this one's pale, and you can manipulate again all that pale colour. Of course, you can't forget that it's a grayscale, so most of the work's done for you anyway. You can just get that into there, that would be quite good. Moving across, I'll do this stone, and then this white one, or pale one. So if you suddenly find somewhere that you haven't done, you can just go back over and give it a coat of something. So I'll see how we're doing for time. Just bear with me. Oh, goodness me, I couldn't do that again. We're just coming up to a minute, to an hour. So it would take probably a couple of hours to do this, I think. I'll show half of it in a second. Where did we get to? I did this bit there. I seem to have matched the colours up quite well. And then you can kind of naturally get darker and darker. So we've got to our and you can push that colour around. Now you've got to be careful, because if you touch this green, it will come back to life. It's not set. It's not like the ink tents. Once you've done this with the ink tents, it's set. But not these watercolours. These are like traditional watercolours. You know, it doesn't matter how many times you wet them, they will come back to being watercolours again. And these are no different. The pigment is watercolour. Now I've touched the top of that green now, but never mind. I'll just go in there with this and just kind of shrub that up a bit. It's obviously a bit of a shrub. And then with a clean brush, just stroke that gunmetal. Do like that one. Gives the effect of slate. And then we can just tease that down there for a bit of a shadow. And again, you know, you can get rid of that yellow if you've got too high. You can take that into this rock here. So if anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. So I do this. This is a pretty dark rock. So I'll kind of get this into there, and then that'll give you a tiny bit on there. You can just stroke that through those stones, and that's just those steps. We've done all that. We've done that one. So I've done that one. So we'll do this, but you do need a clean brush every time. We'll do this one next now. So just stroke very carefully across and tease that colour down. This is the really easy bit, this bit. It's very easy. Oh dear, Suzanne. I must admit, it's addictive when you're watching somebody, isn't it? So I'll just do this little book now. But I didn't think I'd be able to do it like this, but actually I have done, so that's quite a nice, again, it's another way of working that I found to be easy. And it's given me the opportunity to use a bigger space. I think I've made a bit of a boo-boo of that, so I'm going to start up here and just play with this colour. And again, I purposely didn't put any colour where I wanted a a highlight, and then I've put a little bit of a darker one underneath. But it just seems to just come to life. And again, it shows you just how much pigment is in these pencils. And it's almost like painting like magic. It is quite enjoyable. This, it's quite nice. Again, I did the jetty yesterday, so we'll do the jetty. It's not showing up too much because there's a lot of dark greys in this and pale greys, so it's probably not the best to show you of what I'm doing, but I'm just manipulating this pencil. Oh, sorry, bark alert. Bark alerts, I do apologise in advance. I'm hoping it's hubby, but we don't know who it is. And if you just get that drop too much, just a dry, it's a dry baby wipe actually, but it's a clean one. You just don't want to bother your pages, but if it doesn't bother you, you know, that's fine. But if you're going to work in a dry way to keep your pages nice, and again, that's another gunmetal there, so that's going to make that really nice and dark under that shadow. So it's quite nice. And again, very little effort, quite like that, little effort. I did put a little bit of gunmetal under that one as well, just to give it, I mean, and then you can go in and do other things with shadow if you want later. So I could now, yes, Susan, I was thinking that there's books that you just had a paintbrush and the colours came to life. Yes. Yeah, didn't we call it magic colour book or something? I think it was a magic colour book. That's what we had. So I thought I'd just put that. And again, if you've gone over the lines, you can, you know, manipulate it a bit, make it back into your own again. And then there was a funny face up there as well. There's a tiny face up there. It's all sorts of things in these colouring books. So I think we've got this one to do next. And again, that's just that little touch too wet, but it's done now. And again, now I think I've made a mistake with that. I think that shouldn't be that kind of all yellow. So let me see if I can get rid of that because I don't like it. This is the French grey. So I'm going to put, I'm not sure if it'll go over the top or not. We activate all that first. But I know what you can do. You see, what you can do is touch the end of the paintbrush and paint it. So that looks quite nice. I'll probably sort that out. I'll let it dry and I'll sort that out, I think. I've got this tree to do next. And because you put bright yellow and dark greens, and you've already manipulated them into what you want. All the work's done, you're just going over it. Oops, there seems to be a lot of movement about. Don't know what's occurring, but there we go. So I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush, I think, for this grass there. So I still love the pencil sharpener. I still like the pencil sharpener. So damp brush, thank you, darling. Damp brush, and again, just manipulating. And it doesn't really matter that we're going kind of sideways, because the lines underneath that have been drawn are horizontal anyway, so it goes across. And suddenly that becomes very bright. It is actually a grass green. It's a grass green, and it's, you know, you can touch it and it's gone. And I'm just going to come over here and do this one. Could you just pop the daughter, darling, please? Thanks. Thank you, Nigel. So just manipulate that across and down, and then across there, and then I can go back under there and just tease all that colour out. Again, I've used that gunmetal at this side because it was a bit kind of boring, I thought. And there was a tiny bit of green there, but because I pushed it out of the way, it's gone back. So I've activated a little bit of green and it's gone away. So you can take the colour off. It is watercolour, so it will go back to being a watercolour if you wet it again. So now we have to have a bit of training here, so there might be a lot of Alfieing because we wear his name out. We were watching there's been a series on TV about puppies and what the secret life of puppies and what happens to them and what they do, and we could have written the book with Alfie. Yes, this is where we wear his name out. Bless him. It's always we should have called him Alvin, actually, from like the Chipmunks, because we're always shouting him. But he always looks so surprised when he's done anything wrong. It's so funny. Bless him. But he's definitely a naughty boy. He is. To think that it was it 4 weeks yesterday when he was had his little accident. But he was spoilt before, but he's certainly spoilt now. So that's turned out quite nice, that little corner. It was always going to be a strange kind of corner anyway, so manipulate some of these colours about. Uh-oh. That didn't last long, did it? So if you come down here and do this cliff here. Now I have scribbled on the back. They look like large slabs, like concrete slabs. And again, try and manipulate a little bit of that colour under that tree.
Equal boy, sit.
Sorry, there's going to be some munching now. Yeah, munching boy. Sorry about the puppy. I have to stop calling him a puppy. He's not a puppy. Yeah, it didn't take Alfie long to get back to being naughty. I think he was being naughty by the second week. Yeah, and he was kind of jumping about. It's okay. I hope he's good. You can't eat and bark at the same time, Alfie. Oh, there's two of them in here. There's two monsters in here eating. There's Alfie. And there's the old Heinz 57. Don't go far, will you, darling? Because Pickles needs a muzzle on. Are you going upstairs?
Yeah.
Has she got a muzzle on? Please don't go up. Since Alfie's had his accident, Gigi has decided she doesn't like him. But it's quite funny because the vet said she attacked him when he was little, but it's because he used to bite the backs of her legs for about we've had him just over a year. So for a good year he was biting the backs of her legs. It's funny you should say that, Timothy. No, they've all decided he's taught them to be naughty. And we were watching this puppy thing yesterday, and they were saying, oh, the older dogs, all the old dogs, they put the young pup in line and show him what's what. And no, that's not happened. Nigel, darling, do me a favour, just go in there and make sure she's got a muzzle on, please. I'd hate to World War III to break out. She is having a tea, but when she's finished, thank you, darling. Come here, Alf. So it's quite funny, but we do have to feed her in a separate place. But the muzzle she's got on... excuse me. Alfie, come here. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Nigel? Has she got a muzzle on? Right, will you just stand at this door? Because Alf... stand by this door, because Dexter's trying to open the door. I don't feed them normally like this. I have them in different rooms. Right. This is probably going to take a little bit longer, so I'll just pan out a little bit so we can see how far we've got. Oopsie, wrong way. So the page, that's my lamp. The page has come to life now, but I wanted to show the water, but I'll do that in part 2 because I need to stop the video. So that's the end of part 1. Thanks for watching.